It has almost been 2 years now since Thorpe Park announced that they were working on a project to break the record for the UK's tallest roller coaster. I should clarify that the fact I'm wearing a Big One hoodie is by no means a dig to anyone or anything, and today marks arguably the most exciting day of that project so far, as today is the day that Hyperia, previously known as Project Exodus, has finally gone vertical. Honestly, this is such amazing news. It's really starting to feel now that this roller coaster is real. It's going to be happening. You know, earlier last week we had the name announced as Hyperia, and now we're seeing supports going in and undoubtedly track going in the coming days. So I'm sure now the question on everyone's minds is, when is this thing going to start testing? When is it going to open? Well, based off the fact that construction, that being obviously groundwork at first, started in sort of late 2022, November, December time, following the project's final approval from the Secretary of State. Back then, the park announced that the ride will have approximately a 15-month development period from the initial groundwork beginning to the final theming and stylisation going in, following obviously the completion of the track supports and track itself, which means that we could assume that testing would begin around about March 2024, which leads me to believe that the ride would possibly open around about May 2024 time. You've obviously got to consider the fact that unexpected issues may be picked up during testing, and it's really important that the park makes sure the ride is obviously completely safe before anyone sets foot on it. Following the last video I posted regarding the name announcement, and thank you to everyone who has watched that because it really means a lot that you've taken the time to do so. I just want to clarify that I am really excited for this project, and I think it's a great investment for Thorpe Park and the UK, and I appreciate that that may not have come across in that video very well at all. The filming process for that video is really something I do not care to dwell on, but as I'm sure you could tell, it was literally me recording audio. I didn't record any video at all. It was late at night, so I was having to speak relatively quietly and stuff like that, and you know, I sounded very unenthusiastic. It was a super rushed video. I didn't really think about what I was doing with the thumbnail at all or anything like that. I kind of just threw the first thing onto it that came to mind. I kind of already knew that the name for the ride was going to be Hyperia before it was officially announced, because it was registered as a trademark on the government website by Merlin Entertainment. And I always had the thought that, you know, it sounds similar to the name of another hypercoaster, that being Hyperion at Energylandia. So I always had that thought of, oh, it just sounds so similar, it's really unoriginal. But retrospectively, now I've looked more into what the word Hyperia actually means and how it correlates to the theme that the park are going for, which I now know isn't going to be Egyptian as I've thought all along. It's going to be themed to the goddess of fear. It honestly makes total sense, and disregarding the names of other roller coasters around the world, it's a really fitting name for the rides, and I love the fact that it's being correlated to such a positive theme, because Merlin do so many dark themes when it comes to coasters and rides, and it gets a bit boring. So if you went on my channel to watch that video when it was first released, and you've been back on since in the last 24 hours or so, you will notice that I have made some tweaks to it. I obviously can't do anything about the content of the video itself. I am aware from the comments that I did cause quite a bit of confusion, and I know Thorpe Park themselves have seen that video as well, so I apologise. That video was very rushed, and that combined with my quite upfront personality, if you will, you know, if things are great, I'll rave about them, but if I'm not a fan of something, I'll say I'm not a fan of something, meant that things came across likely not how I wanted them to retrospectively, you know, quite over-exaggerated, as much as I wasn't a fan of some aspects of that particular announcement. So, Thorpe Park and all the rest of you watching, there's plenty of videos on my channel surrounding Thorpe Park that are much better than that video, including this one, I hope. One of those being my full show POV of Amity vs. Life in Graduation Sucks from 2022, which was an amazing show, one of the best theme park shows I've ever seen. Go on, click the video on the right side of your screen to go and watch that. And for more things theme park related in the UK and beyond, make sure you click the icon in the centre of your screen to subscribe.